Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Eden Zero, chapter 158. When we last left our heroes, we had the briefest of check-ins in Atmosphere, as Goodwin is now aware of Jaguar's assault on Nero 1. Then we check back in on the Eden Zero, where Sister and Hermit are roughly repaired and ready for a war. Couchpo, though, stops them, reminding them that they, A, shouldn't leave a non-combatant alone on the ship, and when that doesn't really work, remind them that someone has to be there to protect the Eden Zero. And then we move down into Shura's stronghold as Shiki and Rebecca and the bots continue their trek towards Shura, and they get caught in Ijuna's ether gear, the Red String of Destiny, which initially makes Shiki and Rebecca fall in love, but then when Happy, in a failed attempt to save them, cuts through the string, turns them to hating each other, but the affection they share in their hearts causes them to cry, and then Laguna shows up, and they turn to water, leaving Laguna to fight Ijuna, letting the bots escape, and Laguna recognizes Ijuna as Oasis's supposedly dead princess. And that's where we left off, jumping right on into chapter 158, The Madness of a Man Who Knows No Love. And our picture here is of, like, a Super Sentai squad of bots, or at least of mascot characters, Pino and Happy and Plu, and the two characters on the side I don't quite recognize. The man on the far right kind of reminds me of the one human in 119 in Fire Force. Either way, they've seemingly just, like, exploded Mueller, which, like, good for them. But yeah, let's dive right on into chapter 158. We open where we left off, with Laguna and Ijuna staring each other down. Laguna is still kind of shocked now that he knows who she is. Princess, how are you here? I heard you were dead. And Ijuna agrees, your princess is dead. And she readies her strings. I'm an Imperial soldier now. And we see Laguna is now surrounded by her Red String of Destiny. Again, without a second person there, it's not really going to have the same sort of love effect that it had for Shiki and Rebecca. But either way, Laguna's quickly kind of wrapped up in it and is then thrown to the ground. Laguna then summons some water, not really using the more specific version of his Tears Lover, but just summoning a bunch of water to surround Ijuna, like a basic wave attack. She sort of like hunkers down, soldiers through it. And Laguna questions, you betrayed us? You betrayed Oasis? Your friends? And Ijuna shoots back, says the man who ran out on us all. And Laguna kind of agrees. All I cared about back then was power. So I went to the Sakura Cosmos in search of something stronger. I didn't think Oasis would ever beat Nero. They're all idealistic talk and no action. So I've kind of talked, I think I mentioned in my last video about Laguna, what he said immediately post Foresta about having some other goal. Like he was staying with the crew until his other goal would come to fruition, and how I didn't think that was taking down Nero. Because I recall him being largely reluctant to get Shiki and the gang in with Goodwin. But here he's saying, all I cared about back then was power. I didn't think Oasis would ever beat Nero. They're all idealistic talk and no action. Was he trying to, like, team up? When he teamed up with Draken, was the goal kind of to get Draken to fight Nero? Or what? I'm not quite sure. Anyway, and I made up my mind to take down Nero, even if it meant becoming the vilest scum in all the cosmoses. So we see here, he's at the very least, whether or not he's telling the truth or not, he is claiming that everything he's done has been to take down Nero, even leaving Oasis. Again, it doesn't quite feel like it matches up with what we heard at the end of Foresta, but maybe it does. Maybe it's a little bit wonky, but it basically fits. I mean, Ijuna just kind of stares him down. I left the organization, but my principles never changed. Defeating Nero is my one and only goal. And Ijuna then says, right, because the Empire killed your best friend. I remember. That's why you joined Oasis. Are we getting that Laguna backstory? Maybe, but not right now, because Laguna goes back on the attack again. They killed the old boss, too. The Empire killed your father. But this time, Ijuna is able to defend against the water with her strings and send the strings straight for Laguna. This time, 4 of them pierce him in the chest. And Ijuna just shoots back, "What about it?" And Laguna kind of clutches his wound. "Princess, what happened to you?" And Ijuna just tells him, "The red string of destiny." I think I saw a theory that maybe I posited the theory, I don't quite remember, that Ijuna used the red string of destiny on Shura as an attempt to, bring him over to their side, and that failed and just brought her over to his side instead. Either way, we then move into flashback territory as Ijuna asks, "Hey, Laguna, do you believe in the red string of destiny?" This is the same flashback we got a little bit of last week. And Laguna just sort of brushes it off. "I don't know." And Ijuna goes on, "Well, I do. I believe somewhere in the wide cosmos is the man of my destiny, tied to me by an invisible thread." And Laguna kind of presses, "If it's invisible, how do you know it's red?" And Ibaraki gets on to him, "You seriously have no sense of romance, man." But Ijuna goes on, "The red string of destiny is a bond that ties souls together. Even if you can't see it, it links you to someone." And Laguna just nonchalantly drops, "Are you saying it might be linking you to me?" And Ijuna freezes, blushes. She's all of a sudden very embarrassed. I think she might have, at least at this point, more than a little crush on Laguna. Or maybe she's just reacting to the idea that she's into someone. But Ibaraki snaps back, "If and so, it doesn't have to be you. I could be the..." And Laguna just brushes it all off. "I'm kidding." And Ijuna yells back, "I hate you, Laguna." And Laguna in the present thinks, "The red string of destiny. You mean to say you're tied to Nero?" And Ijuna counters, "No, Prince Shura. He is the man of my destiny." So we did get a little bit of a flashback there. The flashback doesn't really answer a lot about Laguna. It's more tied to at least a basic introduction of the older Ijuna, more than anything else. Anyway, Laguna goes on. "The snot-nosed brat who killed dozens of our friends and your own father, the one who subjected the Aoi cosmos to every atrocity, that Shura?" And Ijuna agrees, yes, no one can fight their destiny. Though again, the fact that she and Shura are now just specifically tied by the red string of destiny, and her ether gear is a literalization of the red string of destiny, my theory is still that she tried to brainwash Shura and it backfired. That's still my guess. Anyway, Laguna goes on the attack. Looks like he's got you seriously brainwashed. And he slams his hand down, summoning a bunch of water. "I'll open your eyes for you, princess." But Ijuna just kind of, at this point, straight up acrobatics away from the waves. And then she goes on the attack with some more strings again. The ones who will be opening their eyes will be you all. And she throws her strings up again. Laguna tries to deflect, but we see a few of them get pierced into his arm. You will see that no one can defeat the Empire. And Laguna hits the ground, taking the full brunt of Ijuna's attacks there. But he gets back up, shoots a few more bullets of water. Tears arrow. And Ijuna sets up another little string shield. String matrix! And Laguna's kind of confused. "How are you blocking water with string?" And Ijuna responds, "My ether steel thread blocks everything. And it pierces everything." And we see Laguna kind of stabbed all over thanks to the power of the red string of destiny. Here's my question though. Did Ijuna have this ether gear when she was in Oasis? Because I assumed so. Like all of my theorizing on she tried to use her ether gear on Shura and it backfired relies on the idea that she had ether gear in Oasis. But the fact that Laguna knows so little about it kind of seems to imply that maybe she didn't have it back then? Maybe? I don't know. Either way, Laguna's pierced through with the string, and she continues sewing. And we see the strings are now causing little stitches all over his body. Laguna screams in pain, and Ijuna goes on, "Not even Goodwin could beat me. And you think you can?" Did she have a falling out with Goodwin? Did she try to fight Goodwin? Because that bit, "not even Goodwin could beat me and you think you can," maybe she's just boasting. But I get the sense, specifically with that last line, my sense is that Goodwin tried and failed. He couldn't do it, and you think you can. I don't know, maybe she did have an actual fight with Goodwin rather than just pretending to be dead, but Ibaraki believed that she was dead. So I don't know. Either way, Laguna hits the ground, heavily injured thanks to Ijuna's attacks, and just kind of lies there. Ugh. And Ijuna looms over him. I will kill anyone who tries to get in Prince Shura's way. Even you. And Laguna tries to get up. He's very shaky, blood dripping onto the ground. Red string of destiny. What a joke. It's only red because it's soaked in blood. And Ijuna just stares him down, not moved. Shura's brainwashed you. That's all. And Ijuna gives him a swift kick in the gut and then goes on, let me tell you a story. 3 years ago, I tried to rescue some Oasis members. I was headed for the temple and was captured by the Empire. Every day I was subjected to the cruelest torture and humiliation. Prince Shura almost killed me, time and time again. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of her backstory. And Laguna is I'm not sure if shocked to hear that Shura would torture her, but maybe shocked to hear that she would still follow him after all that. I think the worst is when he took me out for walkies. He stripped me naked, put a leash on me, and marched me through the town like a dog. Alright, I'm glad we're not seeing that, because that would be going back to some of Mashima's worst impulses in this series. I feel like, though, there is a callback there to some of the things we saw the bots doing on Foresta. It feels kind of like an accidental callback, as there's not a whole lot connecting Shura, or what Shura's torturing of Ijuna to Ziggy's virus. But it's still weirdly similar. I don't know. All the questioning looks, the mocking voices. On top of that, he inserted a bomb in my rectum. God, that's needlessly graphic. I'm sorry. That's just too much. And Laguna tries to stop her. Stop! I've heard enough! And she stomps on his head. No, you will listen. This went on for days. And then I realized how lonely he was. I don't think that defends anything he's done, Ijuna. Prince Shura has never loved anyone, and he has never been loved. Not even by his own father, Emperor Nero. Eventually, I came to pity him, and one day, I saw it. The red string of destiny. Is that just your own ether gear, or what? And Laguna kind of mocks. There's a name for that. Some kind of syndrome. When the victim develops goodwill or empathy for their oppressor. I'm kind of glad that Mashima does not name Stockholm Syndrome there, because if he named Stockholm Syndrome in Eden Zero, that would open all kinds of can of worms as to, what the fuck is Stockholm in the Eden Zero universe. Either way, Ijuna just continues mocking. I wouldn't expect you to understand. You'll never know the strength of destiny's bonds, or the madness of a man who doesn't know love. And with that, we leave them, and come back to Shiki and Rebecca. And Happy and Pino, and Moscow must be somewhere, but I guess they've already freed Shiki and Rebecca, which it would make sense, sure. We don't really need to see it. Anyway, Pino tells Shiki, Master, I'm picking Miss Witch's life signature on the other side of that door. And Shiki calls, Witch, we're on our way. And then we see the door slowly start to open up, and there's Shura, standing over Witch's body. You took too long, Shiki. And Witch looks, I just noticed, I was looking mostly at her face, and the kind of, what looks like a bit of a crack around her nose. But looking at her side, it's torn open. She's a bot. She can be saved, I think. I hope. But Shiki, Rebecca, Happy, Pino all stare in just stunned silence. I guess Moscow isn't here, because he would be here too, I guess. But Shura goes on, I was playing with your toy, and it broke. And then we see one last look at Witch's face. We can see the tears, the snot, the drool in her facial orifices as she's been beat to hell. And Shiki just stares at Shura in pure rage. And the chapter ends. Okay, let's dive on in. So there are clearly two very distinct parts of this chapter. The bulk of it is all about Laguna and Ijuna. And we get a supposed explanation for why Ijuna betrayed Oasis. We don't quite, like, there's still a bit of mystery of how, is she being brainwashed? Like, the specific timing of the red string of destiny. You know, eventually I came to pity him on page 16, and one day I saw it, the red string of destiny. That could be, unlike my initial theory of an intentional attempt to get Shura on their side, it might be kind of like Rebecca's early uses of her ether gear back in the spa. And she just accidentally kind of attached to Shura and then accidentally like brainwashed herself. That's my working theory. Because the fact that she sees the red string of destiny, which just so happens to be her ether gear, is a little telling to me. But yeah, I think there's a little bit more that not only does Ijuna, maybe not so much Ijuna doesn't know, more that Ijuna doesn't realize is going on. But yeah, the fight's a good bit of fun. There's some nice little back and forth as... I mean, it's back and forth, but Ijuna is very clearly the one on top. She deflects basically every single one of Laguna's attacks. And gets some major blows in on Laguna. By chapter's end, he is on the ground, unable to get up. Every attempt to rise is met by Ijuna stomping him back down. He's kind of fucked. I don't know. I imagine narratively Laguna will win this fight. I just don't really know how. But yeah, my one complaint is that I know people like how dark Eden Zero gets, specifically in this context. You know, it's specifically like sexual darkness. But it's the kind of thing that's always felt to me more like a 14-year-old really trying to be edgy, talking about he stripped me naked, put a leash on me, and marched me through the town like a dog, and inserted a bomb in my rectum. That's just a little too try-hard. It's a recurring problem that's been going on for like the whole series, so it's not too big a deal, but it definitely feels like trying too hard. But then yeah, we move on to, we leave that plot behind for our cliffhanger involving Shura and witches. I don't really want to call her a corpse because she's a bot. I'm sure she can be revived. But Valkyrie couldn't. I'm trying to remember the exact details as to why Valkyrie couldn't be restored. When the anime finishes Sun Jewel in another month, or maybe even by, I think the flashback is going to be next episode. So maybe by this time next week, I'll remember why Valkyrie couldn't be restored. But I sure hope Witch can. Because A, I like Witch as a character, and B, I just don't know, like Valkyrie had a disciple. I don't really know who replaces Witch in the Starshines if she's gone. I also just don't want her to be gone. She's a fun character, and I want to see more of her. And Shiki is rightfully filled with rage, ready to go. You know, given his earlier couch post scene, I could see there being a thing of, like, the rage makes Shiki kind of stupid, and he fucks up because he's too blinded by anger. Maybe, especially because we had that scene a few months ago with Jean and Couchpo having to talk Shiki down from that rage. But at this point, not even Couchpo can talk Shiki down from the unending rage of seeing Witch lifeless on the ground in front of him. It's time for him to at least try to bring the pain to Shura. And I can't wait to see how that turns out, for better or for worse. So I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe. You know, do whatever makes you happy, you know? And remember, your life is your own, okay? Bye!